My name is Ash-har Quraishi. I'm 36 years old, and I'm speaking with Aziz Ansari, childhood friend, college roommate, first wife, some people say. Both of our parents came from northern India, came to the United States. My parents came in the 60s. Your parents came in the early 70s, was it?
74.
74.
Mm-hmm.
So, but the relationship goes back generations. My dad actually lived with your uncle for a time when they were in school, and then eventually we became college roommates at the University of Illinois.
It's just amazing how when we were in college, we had no idea what the world would turn into.
Yeah. I left the United States. I mean, I was on assignment for CNN. I got the assignment in late August 2001.
That's right.
My wife was in Pakistan looking for office space for the Bureau on 9/11. And so I missed the first 3 years in the United States after 9/11. You know, I went to a country that was, largely hostile towards the United States.
Right. How does it feel to, as an American Muslim, and you're in Pakistan, and your wife's Pakistani, to get death threats from people supposedly from your own faith?
When I covered these stories and when I talked about radicals or militants or extremists or Al-Qaeda, I never associate them with our religion. I never met anybody crazy like that when I was growing up here. All the Muslims I ever knew, even the religious ones, the ones who went to the mosque, the ones who came to conferences, the ones who participated in the Muslim American experience, and even as conservative as they were, they never said crazy things like that. They never took arms. They never planned attacks. We went to movies. We watched TV. We played video games. We played basketball on Saturdays. It was an American experience.
One thing that really bothers me is we're now older, we're in our mid-30s, and we're now in a position where we're mentoring younger kids. For example, in my situation, if I'm training medical students and residents, there's a big sense of psychological apathy among Muslim kids because they think that they can't do it, or they can't excel, or they can't move up the ladder because they're Muslim. They're making excuses for themselves, and I am seeing it in their academic aptitude. And that psychological devastation that they're going through is very hurtful when it's not even true.
Brother, you got to give them a little bit of slack. Think about it. When 9/11 happened, we got through our formative years. We didn't experience the kind of, racism or prejudice or, protests that are happening in the media. I mean, if I were a teenager now, I'd be frightened with some of the things that have been going on. Look at what people said about President Obama when they were trying to associate him with being Muslim because his father was Muslim. I mean, it was like, wow, that's like a racial slur to call him a Muslim. We didn't experience that, I think, the way that kids who you're encountering now, today, experienced it. And maybe, psychologically, I would think that would probably have some sort of an effect on it.
People can make excuses, and I'm tired of our community making excuses for themselves. If you abide by Muslim code of ethics, you actually care for your environment, going green. It's actually a Muslim concept. But how come we didn't go green till it was cool to do so? That's kind of a shame that we are not at the forefront of that issue. Even in healthcare, let me just talk about that. And we talked about this before. Yes. My favorite issue is why aren't more Muslim physicians supporting universal healthcare and the right that healthcare is a right,
not a privilege.
Not a privilege. Yeah. That poor minority patient who doesn't have insurance, that patient deserves the same health care as somebody with money or with insurance. And those are issues which we can get immersed in and really help better our country. At the end of the day, this really is a really sad and tragic and isolated mindset of the fact that there are some Muslims who don't really try to make this our country, and that's a big problem.
My daughter's 6, and she asks a lot of questions. She's very precocious, and she watches the news sometimes with me. She'll ask questions about, well, why are they yelling nasty things about Islam or nasty things about Muslims? And I have to answer those questions.
Right.
And but I try to instill in her, because she's the only Muslim in her class. It just so happens she's not in the kind of diverse environment that I happened to grow up in as a child. So we try to teach her the basics of what her religion is and why we practice it, and sort of the concepts that are really, really not being instilled in children about, how you treat your neighbors, how you should treat elderly people, how to be a good person according to what Islam teaches us. Nobody talks about the really sort of basics of being a good human being.
That's what I've been saying for the past 20 minutes, man.
No, I agree with you. And I think that's the problem, is that we try and teach our children at Sunday school at an early age, okay, memorize this, learn this history.
That's why I go to a cool Sunday school.
Yeah,
my daughter goes to a cool Sunday
school.
The whole concept of this is to make them
good citizens.
Love being American and love being Muslim. And being American and being Muslim are synonymous.
Yeah.
I mean, just like being Catholic and being American, or being Jewish and being American.
It's about being good citizens of the world, right. I think.
Exactly. And if we focus on our character, just simply on our character and being better people, a lot of our problems will be solved.
Agreed. Thanks, Aziz.
Thank you, Usher.